She was just another logistics worker at Forward Base Sentinel, stacking ammunition crates in the desert heat while soldiers prepared for war. Nobody noticed her. Nobody cared. Master Sergeant Callahan barked orders at his team, barely acknowledging her existence as he walked past, until something caught his eye. A patch, partially visible on her collar as she bent forward. Not regulation. Crimson red with black threading. His voice died mid-sentence. Within the hour, the entire mission was reorganized. The woman nobody respected was suddenly the only one they listened to. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? If you enjoy stories about hidden strength and unexpected heroes, consider subscribing for more every week. Forward. Operating Base Sentinel sat like a scar against the barren landscape, a collection of dust-covered tents and prefabricated structures surrounded by concrete barriers and razor wire. The morning air carried the acrid scent of diesel and sweat as soldiers prepared for what command had designated Operation Mercy Hand. Savane Narek moved through the organized chaos with practiced efficiency, her weathered hands methodically arranging ammunition crates near the armory tent. Unlike the soldiers around her, she wore plain fatigues with no rank insignia or unit patches visible on her shoulders. Just another support staff member, invisible to those focused on what they considered real military work. The sun had barely risen over the eastern ridge when Master Sergeant Royce Callahan strode through the supply area, his voice carrying across the compound as he briefed his team. A group of 6 soldiers followed in his wake, their expressions a mixture of determination and anxiety. "This is not a training exercise, people," Callahan announced, pausing near the ammunition stockpile where Savane worked. "Those aid workers have less than 72 hours before Karza decides they are more valuable dead than alive. We move fast, we move quiet, and we bring them home." As Callahan continued his briefing, he stepped backward and nearly tripped over one of Savane's carefully arranged crates. He caught himself and spun around, eyes narrowing as they fell on her. "Watch your placement, supply girl," he barked without really looking at her. "Some of us have actual combat to prepare for." Savane said nothing, simply adjusted the crate and continued her work. Her gray eyes revealed nothing, her movements remaining steady and purposeful despite the interruption. She had been at FOB Sentinel for 3 days, and in that time, not a single person had asked her name. "Sergeant Callahan," one of the younger soldiers called out. "Intel just updated the target location. Lieutenant Thorpe wants you at command." Callahan grunted an acknowledgement and moved away, already focused on the mission ahead. None of them glanced back at Savane, who continued organizing ammunition by caliber and purpose, her fingers moving with the confidence of someone intimately familiar with every type of round in the military arsenal. An hour later, Savane approached the command tent with a clipboard in hand. Lieutenant Brielle Thorpe stood at a tactical table covered with maps and satellite imagery, her dark hair pulled into a severe bun as she discussed entry points with 2 communications specialists. Savane waited patiently until there was a break in conversation. "Request access to the weapons locker for inventory, ma'am," she said, her voice quiet but clear. Thorpe barely glanced up from her tablet. "Denied. Logistics personnel do not have clearance during mission prep. Come back tomorrow." "The mission requires specialized ammunition," Savane noted calmly. This time, Thorpe looked up, irritation flashing across her features. "Are you questioning my decision?" Her voice rose slightly, drawing attention from nearby personnel. "I have been planning this operation for a week. The ammunition is accounted for." "Standard procedure requires verification 12 hours before deployment," Savane replied, her tone neutral. "I know the procedures," Thorpe snapped. "I also know we have 3 aid workers who will be executed if we do not move quickly. Your inventory can wait." Savane simply nodded and walked away, neither her expression nor her posture revealing any reaction to the dismissal. As she passed the tactical table, she paused briefly, her eyes scanning the map of the mountain range where the aid workers were reportedly held. Her gaze lingered on particular ridgelines with unusual interest, noting the marked insertion points and the valley approach that had been highlighted as the primary infiltration route. "That area is classified," Thorpe called out sharply. "Return to your duties." Without a word, Savane moved on, returning to the ammunition depot where she resumed organizing crates with the same methodical precision as before. Her apparent acceptance of her role made her effectively invisible to the soldiers preparing for combat, allowing her to observe everything while being observed by no one. The midday sun beat down mercilessly as Sylvain transported a fresh shipment of ammunition from the supply helicopter to the staging area. Private Elric Mercer, a fresh-faced soldier barely out of training, lounged with 3 other junior enlisted men near the water station. "Hey guys, watch this," he muttered as Sylvain approached with her arms full of equipment. As she passed, Mercer deliberately stepped into her path, bumping her shoulder hard enough to send several boxes of ammunition tumbling to the ground. Sylvain managed to keep her balance, but the carefully sorted rounds scattered across the dusty ground. "Oops," Mercer smirked, making no move to help. "Better clean that up, supply girl. We would not want anyone important tripping." Laughter rippled through the group as Sylvain knelt to reorganize the ammunition, her movements remaining methodical, unhurried. The young soldiers watched for a moment, waiting for a reaction that never came. "What is wrong with her?" one of them muttered. "Does she even speak?" "Who cares?" Mercer replied. "She is just another drone they send out here to count bullets while we do the real work." As Sylvain reached for a box that had slid farther away, her collar shifted slightly, revealing a glimpse of dark red fabric sewn to the inside before she subtly adjusted it closed again. None of the soldiers noticed the brief exposure as they wandered away, already bored with their momentary entertainment. Throughout the afternoon, Sylvain continued her work, moving between supply tents and mission preparation areas with quiet efficiency. She listened as soldiers discussed the upcoming operation, absorbing details about timelines, extraction plans, and known enemy positions. No one questioned her presence or censored their conversations around her, an advantage of being considered irrelevant. As the day progressed, she made her way to the communications tent, where technicians monitored radio traffic from the surrounding region. While organizing communication batteries on a nearby shelf, she overheard a technician reporting unusual movement patterns from one of the satellite feeds. "The western approach shows minimal activity," the specialist told his superior, "almost like they have abandoned that position." The officer frowned. "That contradicts our human intelligence. Keep monitoring and update the command team if anything changes." Sylvain's hands paused imperceptibly before resuming their work, her expression remaining neutral despite the information she had just absorbed. By evening, final mission preparations were underway in the command tent. Sylvain positioned herself near the entrance, organizing ammunition into mission-specific packs while Callahan argued with Lieutenant Thorpe over tactical approaches. "The northern ridge gives us better visibility," Thorpe insisted, pointing at the map. "And zero cover," Callahan countered. "Might as well paint targets on our backs." "The satellite imagery shows minimal activity at the western approach," a communications officer interjected, pointing to a valley route. "It appears to be our clearest path." At this, Sylvain glanced up briefly from her task, studying the marked route with subtle intensity. "That valley is a natural choke point," Callahan muttered, unconvinced. "Something does not feel right about it." Thorpe noticed Sylvain listening and frowned. "Do not you have somewhere else to be?" she asked pointedly. "She is prepping our ammunition," Callahan said, then added gruffly, "Just do not screw it up like the last supply clerk. That mission was a disaster." "I will ensure everything is properly prepared, Sergeant," Sylvain replied, her voice revealing nothing as she continued her work. As she leaned forward to lift a heavy case, her collar shifted again, revealing more of that dark red fabric with what appeared to be black stitching. This time, Callahan noticed. His brow furrowed as he studied her with new attention, continuing his briefing but now frequently glancing her way with growing suspicion and curiosity. 72 hours is the outer limit of our window, he continued, though his focus had clearly split. After that, historical patterns suggest Karza will execute the hostages as an example. Minutes later, Colonel Vaden entered the command tent unexpectedly. His weathered face revealed nothing as his eyes swept across the tactical displays before pausing when they reached Sylvain. Something flickered in his expression, a momentary break in his professional mask. "Sergeant Callahan," he said, his voice deliberately casual. "A word, please." Callahan followed the colonel to a corner of the tent, far enough to be out of earshot but positioned where both men could observe Sylvain as she continued organizing equipment. Their hushed conversation grew increasingly intense as both men kept looking toward the seemingly ordinary logistics worker. Lieutenant Thorpe watched this unusual interaction with growing suspicion, her eyes darting between the senior officers and the supply clerk they seemed so interested in. She approached Sylvain with a clipboard. Your personnel file shows you arrived 3 days ago, Thorpe said, her tone clipped. Previous posting not specified. Care to elaborate? Joint logistics support, ma'am, Sylvain replied without looking up from her task. I go where ammunition is needed. That is rather vague, Thorpe pressed. Which command sent you? I believe those details are in my transfer orders, Lieutenant. Thorpe's expression hardened. I will be verifying your credentials. In the meantime, finish your work and report to your assigned quarters. As Thorpe walked away, Private Mercer approached Sylvain, leaning casually against a crate of grenades. He had been watching the unusual attention she was receiving from command with growing curiosity. Must be boring, right? He asked with a smirk. Counting bullets while we do the real work? He flashed what he believed was a charming smile. Maybe I will tell you about it when we get back, if you are nice. Sylvain offered a thin smile but remained focused on her work. When she did not respond, Mercer reached for her tactical gloves lying nearby. Nice gear for a supply clerk, he said, examining the high-quality material. These are Spec Ops issue. Where did you get them? Callahan returned suddenly, his demeanor completely changed from earlier that day. Mercer, he snapped, show some respect. For the supply girl? Mercer asked, confused by the sergeant's unexpected defense. Callahan just stared until Mercer retreated, bewildered by the inexplicable shift in attitude. The sergeant's eyes remained on Sylvain, studying her with new intensity. After the briefing dispersed, the command tent emptied except for Callahan and Sylvain. He approached her at the ammunition depot, where she continued preparing specialized rounds for the morning's operation. Where did you get that patch? He asked, voice uncharacteristically uncertain. She did not answer, continuing to organize equipment with the same measured movements. I saw it, Callahan persisted, inside your collar, red with black stitching. When she still offered no response, he lowered his voice further. Echo Red is not real, he said, more to himself than to her. It is just a story they tell to scare the new guys, ghost operators who do not exist on any roster. Sylvain finally paused her work, though she did not look up. Is there something you need for the mission, Sergeant? Why are you here? Callahan asked directly. This is a straightforward extraction. Nothing that would warrant attention from, specialized personnel. Before she could respond, the tent flap opened as Colonel Vaden returned with 2 security officers. Though they addressed no one in particular, they were clearly there for Sylvain. The briefing mentioned using the Western Valley approach, Vaden said, his tone carefully neutral. Do you have thoughts on that, Specialist? Sylvain finally spoke, her quiet voice carrying unexpected authority. Your intel on the warlord's location is wrong. It is a trap. The sudden silence that followed her statement hung heavy in the air. Vaden's expression revealed nothing, but his posture had subtly changed, becoming more deferential. Explain, was all he said. Sylvain removed a folded map from her pocket, placing it on a crate. There is a secondary tunnel system not on your charts. 3 entry points, here, here, and here. Her finger tapped locations with absolute certainty. Karza has been moving hostages through these tunnels for years. Your satellite imagery shows minimal activity in the western approach because they want you to take that route. And how exactly would you know this? Lieutenant Thorpe asked from the tent entrance where she had returned unnoticed. The colonel's eyes remained fixed on Sylvain. How many missions, operator? He asked quietly. 47, she finally met his gaze. This would be 48. Callahan's face drained of color as he recognized the implications of that number. Even Thorpe fell silent, her challenging posture faltering as she processed what she was hearing. Without being asked, Sylvain turned her collar, fully revealing the crimson patch with its black insignia, a symbol so rare and significant that hardened soldiers instinctively stepped back. The mark of Echo Red, the most classified special operations unit in existence, whose operators moved through war zones like ghosts, undertaking missions too sensitive to officially acknowledge. Mission briefing in 10 minutes, the colonel announced, looking directly at Sylvain. Operator Narek will lead. Sir, Thorpe began to protest. With all due respect, I have been planning this operation for days. We cannot simply change everything based on unverified intelligence from a logistics clerk. She is not a logistics clerk, Lieutenant, Vaden replied firmly. And her intelligence takes priority over all other sources. 47 missions, 0 failures. That is why Echo Red operators do not wear rank or recognition, Lieutenant, because when they speak, everyone listens, regardless of their apparent position. The base's atmosphere transformed instantly as word spread. Soldiers who had ignored or dismissed Sylvain now stood straighter as she passed between tents. Equipment was quickly reconfigured according to her specifications. Maps were redrawn based on her detailed knowledge of the region. At the new mission briefing, Sylvain stood at the center of the command tent, her demeanor unchanged, but her authority absolute. Lieutenant Thorpe attempted to reassert control, but fell silent at a single look from the colonel. The Western approach is deliberately left unguarded to draw in rescue attempts, Sylvain explained, her knowledge of the terrain and enemy patterns revealing years of invisible work in the region. Their sniper positions are stationed here and here, covering the entire valley. They expect a helicopter insertion at these coordinates. She traced an alternate route on the map. We will approach from the north instead, using the ridge line for cover. Small teams, silent movement. The tunnel entrance is concealed beneath this rock formation, lightly guarded because they consider it unknown. That puts us within 500 meters of their main camp, Callahan noted with newfound respect in his voice. They will not be expecting anyone from that direction, Sylvain replied. We will have approximately 12 minutes from first contact until their reinforcements arrive from the southern outpost. The operators around the table nodded, absorbing her detailed intelligence with the respect it deserved. No one questioned how she knew the precise response times or guard rotations. The red patch had answered all those questions. After the briefing, as equipment was being loaded onto helicopters for the pre-dawn mission, Callahan approached Sylvain privately. I have served 20 years, he said, watching her inspect a specialized breaching charge. Never heard an Echo Red operator speak before. Thought you were myths. Sylvain responded simply, That is the point, Sergeant. How long have you been watching us? He asked. Planning this? I arrived when I needed to arrive, she answered, offering nothing more. Callahan nodded slowly. Those aid workers, they are not just aid workers, are they? Sylvain met his eyes briefly. Everyone at that compound needs to come home. That is all you need to know. Private Mercer approached them hesitantly, nervous respect evident in his posture. He held out Sylvain's tactical gloves, the ones he had mockingly taken earlier. I am sorry about before, he stammered. I did not know who you were. Instead of humiliating him, she placed a hand on his shoulder. You have got good instincts, Private. Work on your situational awareness. In the field, missing details gets people killed. Mercer nodded earnestly. Yes, ma'am. Yes, operator. As the team prepared to board the helicopters, soldiers throughout the base stood at attention, a silent salute to the operator they had dismissed for days. Even Lieutenant Thorpe had adapted, now deferring to Sylvain's expertise without question. Sylvain herself remained unchanged, checking equipment with the same methodical precision she had shown when everyone thought she was just another support staff member. Only now, they understood that every movement, every observation, had been part of a mission they never knew existed. The red patch on her collar, visible now that concealment was no longer necessary, caught the first light of dawn as she boarded the lead helicopter. 47 missions, 0 failures, and absolutely no desire for recognition. 3 days later, the mission team returned to Forward Operating Base Sentinel. Their helicopters descended through the afternoon haze, rotors kicking up swirls of dust as they touched down on the landing zone. Medical teams rushed forward to receive the 3 rescued aid workers, all alive despite their ordeal. The soldiers disembarked with the quiet satisfaction of a mission completed without casualties. Sylvain was among the last to exit the aircraft. Her fatigues were dust-covered and sweat-stained, but her movements remained as precise and controlled as ever. Without fanfare, she walked directly to the ammunition depot and began the process of accounting for unused ordnance, exactly as she had done before the mission. Within an hour, it was as if nothing had changed. She stacked crates and organized supplies with the same methodical efficiency that had once rendered her invisible. But the base around her had transformed. Soldiers who passed by now nodded respectfully or offered quiet greetings. The space around her seemed charged with a new awareness, an unspoken recognition. Master Sergeant Callahan approached, carrying 2 steaming cups of coffee. He set one down beside her without ceremony. Black, no sugar, he said. Figured that is how you take it. Sylvain accepted the cup with a slight nod. Thank you, Sergeant. That tunnel system, Callahan said after a moment. It was not on any of our maps, not even the classified ones. No, it would not be, she replied simply. You have been in this region before. It was not a question, but she answered anyway. Several times. Callahan nodded slowly, understanding the implication. Echo Red operators worked in the shadows, gathering intelligence and executing missions that officially never happened. Her knowledge of those tunnels came from operations no one at this base would ever know about. The way you handled that ambush point, he said, lowering his voice. 3 shooters down before anyone else even registered the threat. Never seen anything like it. Sylvain continued her inventory count. The mission was successful. That is what matters. Right, Callahan agreed, recognizing her discomfort with the acknowledgement. Well, the Colonel wants to see you when you are finished here. After he left, Sylvain continued her work, though she was no longer truly anonymous. Soldiers watched her from across the compound, some with curiosity, others with newfound respect. The weight of their attention seemed to press against her, a pressure she had spent years avoiding. Lieutenant Thorpe arrived next, her posture notably different from days earlier. Where there had once been dismissive authority, there was now careful deference. Operator Narek, she began formally. I wanted to apologize personally for my behavior before the mission. I was unaware of your status and treated you with disrespect. Sylvain looked up from her clipboard. There is nothing to apologize for, Lieutenant. My role requires anonymity. Even so, Thorpe persisted, I pride myself on professional conduct. I should have questioned why logistics would send personnel 3 days before a classified extraction. I missed the signs. That is the point of Echo Red, Sylvain replied. We exist in the gaps between attention. If you had noticed, I would not be doing my job correctly. Thorpe nodded, a new respect evident in her expression. The Colonel mentioned you will be with us another week. If there is anything you need, please let me know directly. As Thorpe walked away, Private Mercer approached with several of his fellow soldiers. They maintained a respectful distance, their earlier mockery replaced by something approaching awe. Operator Narek, Mercer said, stumbling slightly over the unfamiliar address. We were wondering if you might join us at the mess tent. Some of the team is gathering to decompress. Sylvain offered a small smile but shook her head. Thank you for the invitation, Private, but I still have work to complete here. Of course, he replied quickly. Maybe another time. They retreated, but not before one whispered to another. Told you she would say no. Echo Red operators always work alone. By evening, Sylvain had finished reorganizing the ammunition depot and was writing her mission report when Colonel Vaden found her. He carried a folder stamped with classified markings. Your extraction plan was flawless, he said without preamble. The intelligence you provided about the tunnel system has been forwarded to Central Command. They were, as you might expect, very interested to learn about its existence. Sylvain nodded but said nothing. I have arranged proper quarters for you, the Colonel continued. Officers' section, private entrance. More suitable for someone of your actual rank. No thank you, sir, she declined. I work better from the shadows. The supply tent corner serves my purposes. Vaden studied her for a moment. Very well, but I want you to know your contribution here is recognized, even if most will never know the full extent of it. Recognition is not why I do this, sir. I know, he replied. That is precisely why you wear that patch. After the Colonel departed, Sylvain returned to the quiet corner of the supply tent where she had made her temporary home. A simple cot, a footlocker, and a small desk were all she required. She unfolded a detailed map of the region and began marking new observations, information gathered during the mission that would be valuable for future operations. Her mission at FOB Sentinel was not complete. The extraction of the aid workers had been only one objective. Her true assignment involved mapping the entire network of Karza's smuggling routes, intelligence that would support operations across the border region for years to come. She would continue her quiet observations, gathering pieces of information too small for others to notice but vital when assembled into a complete picture. The next morning, Sylvain resumed her role at the ammunition depot. Though she no longer needed to maintain the pretense of being mere support staff, she found the routine useful. Soldiers preparing for patrols spoke freely around her, sharing observations about terrain and enemy movements that they might censor in formal reports. Her position allowed her to monitor communications, track supply movements, and observe patterns that revealed valuable intelligence about the region. Master Sergeant Callahan found her mid-morning, organizing a shipment of rifle ammunition that had arrived by transport helicopter. "You know," he said conversationally, "you do not have to keep doing this. We have regular logistics personnel for these tasks." "I find it useful," she replied. "Habits and routines create a kind of invisibility, even when people know who you are." Callahan nodded, understanding. "The men were talking last night about Echo Red, about what it means that you were here all along, watching. Some of them are spooked, wondering if they are being evaluated." "I am not here to evaluate anyone, Sergeant." "I know that," he said, "but the red patch carries weight, stories, legends even. Most of which are exaggerated," she noted. "Maybe," Callahan allowed, "but after seeing you in action, I am not so sure anymore." Later that afternoon, a transport plane arrived, bringing supplies and a rotation of new personnel. Among them was Specialist Ramir, a communications technician newly assigned to FOB Sentinel. As he toured the base with his orientation group, they passed the ammunition depot where Sylvain worked. "Who is the woman stacking boxes?" he asked his guide dismissively. Master Sergeant Callahan, overhearing the question, fixed the newcomer with a stare that silenced him immediately. The look conveyed volumes about respect, recognition, and the dangers of judging by appearance. "That," Callahan said quietly, "is someone who has saved more lives than you will ever know. Remember that before you open your mouth around her again." The chastened specialist nodded quickly, suddenly very interested in the rest of the orientation tour. As the week progressed, Sylvain continued her work, gathering intelligence and completing her true mission while maintaining her cover as support personnel. She moved through the base with the same quiet efficiency that had once made her invisible, though now she carried the weight of recognition. On her final evening at FOB Sentinel, she stood at the perimeter fence, watching the sun set over the distant mountains. The sky burned with deep oranges and reds that mirrored the color of the patch she wore, now hidden once again beneath her collar. Tomorrow she would board a transport helicopter and disappear, moving on to another base, another mission, another identity. Colonel Vaden joined her at the fence line, his hands clasped behind his back as he too watched the sunset. "Your replacement arrives tomorrow," he said. "Regular logistics personnel this time." "The mission is complete," she confirmed. "All objectives achieved." "Those aid workers," Vaden said carefully. "One of them was carrying intelligence that could have compromised 3 ongoing operations across the border. If Karz's people had broken him, the damage would have been severe." Sylvain nodded once. "That information is secure now." "Thanks to you," the colonel added, "though I doubt that will appear in any official record." "As it should be," she replied. The colonel extended his hand. "It has been an honor, Operator Narek." She shook it briefly. "The honor was mine, sir." As Vaden walked away, Sylvain remained at the fence, watching as the last light faded from the sky. Tomorrow she would become someone else, somewhere else. Another base, another mission, another chance to work in the shadows where she was most effective. The red patch would remain hidden, as would her true purpose and abilities. It was what made Echo Red so effective, this ability to move unseen through the world, to be dismissed and overlooked until the moment when it mattered most. She preferred it that way. Recognition was never what she sought. The mission was everything, and the mission continued.